If you've spent years being told you overreact, that you feel things too loudly, that you make a big deal out of what other people seem to shrug off, and some part of you has quietly started to believe them, I want you to know this. You're not dramatic. You're attuned, and the world simply turned the volume up higher on your dial than it did on most. Dramatic is one of those words people reach for when they don't understand the intensity of someone else's experience. It's a small, dismissive word. It says your reaction is a performance, an exaggeration, a choice you're making for attention, and the cruelty of it is how often it gets aimed at people who aren't performing anything at all. They're simply registering the world at a resolution other people don't share, and then being told that what they genuinely felt was too much. Let me tell you about someone. I'll call her Sophia. Sophia could walk into a room and know, within seconds, that two people in it had been arguing before she arrived. She felt the tension in her own chest like it was hers. A harsh word from a stranger could sit with her for hours. A sad scene in a film could undo her completely. And for most of her life, the people around her had a single explanation for all of it. You're so dramatic, Sophia. Why do you always make everything so intense? So she learned to apologize for herself. She learned to shrink her reactions, to laugh off what genuinely moved her, to pretend the world wasn't landing on her as hard as it was. She spent decades convinced that something about her was excessive, that she was the problem in every room that asked her to feel less. What Sophia never understood, until much later, was that she wasn't feeling too much. She was feeling accurately. The tension in that room was real. She just happened to be one of the few people sensitive enough to detect it. Her reactions weren't inflated. The signal she was receiving was simply stronger than the signal everyone around her was getting, because her instrument was more finely tuned. And that is a very different thing from being dramatic. Drama is noise added on top of the truth. Attunement is the truth, received in higher definition. Sophia wasn't exaggerating reality. She was reporting it from a place most people couldn't reach. There's real science under this. Researchers studying child development, including the work of Thomas Boyce, found that children seem to fall along a spectrum of sensitivity to their environment. He used a beautiful metaphor for it. Most children, he said, are like dandelions. They'll grow more or less anywhere, fairly resilient to whatever conditions they're handed. But a smaller group are like orchids. Place them in harsh conditions and they suffer more than anyone. But place them in the right conditions, with warmth and care and attention, and they don't just survive. They bloom more brilliantly than the dandelions ever could. The orchid isn't a defective dandelion. It's a different and equally valid design, one that registers its environment more deeply in both directions. If you've always felt things harder than the people around you, you may simply be built like an orchid. The same sensitivity that makes the hard things harder is the exact thing that lets you experience beauty, connection, and meaning at a depth most people never touch. So here are 3 things I want you to understand about what's really happening. First, your sensitivity is a form of perception, not a malfunction. You're picking up real data, real moods, real undercurrents, real beauty that other people are simply missing. Being told you're too much is often just being told you notice something the other person would rather not have seen. Second, the depth runs in both directions. You cannot dampen your capacity to feel pain without also dampening your capacity to feel wonder. The same dial that turns up the ache turns up the joy, the awe, the love. To numb one is to numb both. Your intensity is the price and the gift of a life felt fully. Third, you were never the problem in the room. You were the smoke detector. And nobody calls a smoke detector dramatic for going off when there's actually something burning. The people who called you too much were often just uncomfortable that you noticed what they were trying to ignore. The writer, Anais Nin, once said that we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. She understood that perception is never neutral, that what you register about the world is a reflection of the instrument doing the registering. Your instrument happens to be exquisitely sensitive. That's not a flaw in the reading. That's a rare and precious depth in the one who reads. So stop apologizing for the volume of your heart. You were never being dramatic. You were being honest about a world that was always this intense, that most people just couldn't feel as clearly as you. Don't turn the dial down. Find the conditions and the people where an orchid was always meant to bloom.